The movie Castle Falls begins with Michael Wade, a professional MMA fighter whose career takes a nosedive after a crucial mistake. He steps into the ring despite a serious shoulder injury and loses his last 3 fights. Now, no reputable opponent will face him again. After surgery and a long recovery, Mike returns to his manager and gym owner, Vince, desperately asking for one final chance. The manager replies that it's pointless. Then Wade offers a deal. If he beats Vince's strongest fighter, the manager will let him back into the professional ring. If he loses, he'll leave the sport forever. Mike immediately jumps into the fight and quickly takes the upper hand. Wade is sure he's won and lets go of his opponent, but the guy suddenly lashes out like a madman, hits Mike's injured shoulder, and then chokes him on the ground. Mike has to keep his word. Unable to pay rent anymore, he packs his things and gets into his pickup truck, planning to leave town and look for any kind of work. He gives his gloves to some local kids, officially saying goodbye to his sports career. Wade is forced to sleep in his truck and survive on very modest meals. At the employment center, he's offered the only available low-paying job as a janitor at Castle Heights Hospital, which is scheduled to be demolished. Mike's task, along with his co-workers, is to remove old furniture, equipment, and devices from the building before the demolition crew brings it down. Meanwhile, Richard Erickson cares for his daughter Emily. She's severely weakened from leukemia and several rounds of chemotherapy. A home nurse named Leah tells Richard she won't be able to keep helping unless she gets paid for the last month. Richard assures her that insurance will cover the expenses, but an insurance agent explains that the treatment is too complex and expensive, and Richard will have to pay $400,000 out of pocket. The family doesn't have that kind of money. At Fordham Federal Prison, inmate Damian Glass attacks another prisoner named Lando. He stabs him and shouts that Lando stole a fortune from him. Lando fights back as guards rush in to separate them. Meanwhile, Mike and his co-worker George decide to take a quick break. The supervisor arrives and reminds them that all trash must be sorted properly. Outside the hospital, the mayor is giving a speech to reporters. He announces that Castle Heights will be demolished in 2 days and replaced with a massive community center. In the prison hospital, Lando sees the mayor's interview on TV and begs the guards to bring Senior Officer Erickson. Richard and Zach come in, and Lando pleads to be transferred to the South Block, claiming his life is in danger. The guard refuses. Then Lando offers money for Erickson's daughter's treatment. Furious, Richard attacks him. However, later that night, Erickson visits Lando and demands the full story. The inmate confesses that he stole $3 million from Damian, drug money, and hid it inside Castle Heights. Lando offers to give Erickson the money in exchange for being moved to the South Block, where Glass's men can't reach him. Another guard, working for Damian, informs him of the transfer. Damian realizes that Erickson must be after the stolen cash and calls his brother, Deacon Glass, asking him to follow Richard and retrieve the money. While Damian is locked up, Deacon runs the drug operation on the outside. During a break, George tells Mike that Castle Heights used to be an orphanage where he spent 2 hard years as a kid. He's hated the building ever since and would love to see it demolished. Mike admits he was an MMA fighter. George recognizes him right away and says he's seen some of his best fights. After a hard shift, Mike sleeps in his truck next to the hospital. At home, Erickson prepares a meal for his daughter, and they quietly remember her late mother. Deacon and his girlfriend Kat are watching the Castle Heights building, which is about to be demolished. They plan to sneak in and retrieve the cash once the workers leave. Meanwhile, George and Mike work together again. George shares that he has a wife and 2 kids. He offers Mike a new, better-paying job, but it's in Alaska. Mike is dismantling an old wooden cabinet alone when he stumbles upon a hidden stash of money, but doesn't tell George. The shift ends, and the workers leave. Mike, taking only $100, plans to return for the rest of the money when everyone's gone. Richard kisses his daughter and heads to the hospital for the cash. Deacon and his crew disguise themselves as workers and say they have until 3 a.m. to find the money before the explosion. As the workers head out for drinks, Mike tells George he forgot his vest with a map inside. He gives George money to buy him a drink and heads back to the building. Along the way, he hears a warning: 90 minutes until detonation. Inside, Wade opens 3 bags stuffed with cash and smiles like a child, convinced no one else knows about the money. At that moment, Richard enters the property, unaware that the gang is right behind him. They drive a truck up to the building. A guard stops them, recognizes Kat, a former dancer, and seals his fate. Richard climbs to the 6th floor, where Lando said the money is hidden. Along the way, he sees explosives placed throughout the building. Deacon and his armed goons rush in, searching for Erickson and the cash. Mike spots Richard searching nearby rooms, quickly stuffs the cash into bags, and tries to head downstairs, but hears the gang approaching. Richard notices a dollar bill on the floor and realizes someone found the money first. Wade accidentally kicks a can, alerting both Richard and the gang. They move toward the noise. Mike and Richard hide in separate window alcoves on different floors and spot each other, stunned. One of the gang members calls the others downstairs, thinking he's caught the thief, but it's George, who came back to check on Mike since he'd been gone so long. The thugs find a bill on George and beat him, convinced he has the money. Of course, he doesn't. Enraged, they shoot him dead. Wade cries out in grief, giving himself away, and the gang chases him upstairs. Mike weeps, knowing George died because of him. In a rage, Mike attacks the first thug, defeats him, and throws him down an elevator shaft. The others grab Mike, but he breaks free, jumps down a garbage chute, and lands on cardboard boxes. Erickson appears, holds a knife to Mike's throat, and demands the money. Mike pretends not to know anything and is terrified. He tries to knock the guard out and run. But Erickson is tough. They fight evenly until a thug with a gun finds them. The two join forces, knock the thug out, and run as the rest close in. Deacon shouts that this is their last chance. Throw the money out the window and live. Wade ignores the offer. He rappels down to a lower floor using a fire hose and runs into Kat, who manages to shoot him in the arm. Richard appears and pushes her toward the window with a stick. She's gunned down by her own men, who mistake her for the thief. Deacon screams in horror at the sight of his dead girlfriend and swears revenge. 30 minutes until detonation. Erickson helps Wade bandage his wound and again asks about the money, but Mike keeps lying. Two more thugs approach. After a brief fight, the two take out one thug, shoot the second, then finish off the first when he wakes up. Mike realizes the gang came for Richard and, holding him at gunpoint, demands the truth. Richard confesses everything, the mafia money and his daughter's cancer. Mike radios Deacon, vowing to make him pay for killing George. Wade hands Richard a bag of money, and the two prepare to flee. About 15 minutes remain. The mayor and townspeople prepare for the demolition. The gang catches up to them on the 6th floor, but the two escape to the roof. Deacon gives chase, while another thug positions himself at the exit. Mike tells Erickson to run and tackles Deacon. Richard shoots the last gang member and jumps into the gang's truck. Mike defeats Deacon and dives into the truck bed just in time, with only seconds left before the explosion. Deacon sits on the roof, grinning like a madman, clutching the third bag of money. Days later, Wade leaves a bag of money on George's family's doorstep. As they mourn his death, Mike takes his fallen friend's advice and heads to Alaska. Richard transfers Damien to the South Block, where Lando and his crew are already waiting. What did you think of Castle Falls? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you next time.